Welcome, welcome, welcome to episode 227 of the show with no name. I'm your humble host, Nick, and in today's episode, we're going to be visiting this little old farmer's cemetery out here in the Odessa, Washington area. This cemetery goes by the name of the Freedensfeld Cemetery. Let's get into this. The cemetery got its name from the German Congregational Freedensfeld Church that was once nearby, just down the street here. And it got taken down many years ago, and a lot of the wood was used to build another church somewhere else in the area. The people that are buried here in this cemetery seem to have been born in either Germany, Russia, or South Dakota. And I understand that this cemetery at one time was known as the Quast Cemetery. And I got further evidence of that, seeing that there were a number of Quasts buried here, as you can see by this headstone. Jacob and Justina Quast were both born in the 1880s. And Justina, she was actually an immigrant from Russia, and Jacob was from South Dakota. And I'm assuming Justina immigrated to South Dakota where she would meet Jacob. And then together at some point, they immigrated out here to the Odessa, Washington area. And they both lived to be pretty old. They would have 4 boys together during their marriage: Walter, Lawrence, Hugo, and Leonard. Walter and Lawrence would live to old age and they would be buried elsewhere, but Hugo and Leonard were both buried here because they died in their infancy. There are also a number of Henchmans buried in this cemetery, and the Henchmans came from South Dakota out here to the area in Odessa in the early 1900s. But their families were originally from Russia, and they immigrated to South Dakota in the 1800s. This is Adolf Henchman's headstone, and he was born on November 15th, 1890 in South Dakota. And he would pass away on January 7th, 1907 at the age of 16 of pneumonia at his family's farm home just 10 miles outside of Odessa. Adolf's brother, Rudolph Henchman, is also buried here, and Rudolph was born on April 30th, 1892 in South Dakota, and he would pass away on October 18th, 1918 in Odessa, Washington at the age of 26. He was the second victim of the Spanish influenza in Odessa, Washington. He was just slated to ship out in a month for military service before his passing. There are 2 other Henchman children that are also buried out here in this cemetery, but I was not able to find any information about them or any grave markers. There are also a handful of infants that are buried here in this cemetery, whose parents are buried in the Odessa Cemetery, closer to town. There's also a 4-year-old boy buried in this cemetery who died rather tragically. The Odessa record on December 1st, 1911 reads, "The 4-year-old son of Mr. and Mrs. William Deef, living northwest of Odessa, is dead from burns received by falling into a boiler of hot water after it had been removed from the stove. While the mother was washing clothes, the child dropped a comb into the boiler, and in attempting to recover it, fell in and was scalded." I hope you enjoyed today's show. Thank you.